We are live.
We hope. We haven't had a run in with it not going live since that one time, but we're going to wait a second just to make sure that we get the eyeballs and uh, letting us
This
know
is
for
something
the
happening.
fact.
Hey, I can
There we
see
go.
us.
All right. Yep, we're officially live. Sorry about Friday. I had a rough Thursday night. It happens from time to time, and I am not quite feeling myself today, but I will do the best I can to be as stupid as I am, which
And
should be easy for me.
yeah,
I am.
to answer Chris's question, we both have different reasons for perhaps not giving a great answer to his question. So anyway,
I am old new dude. He is.
Richard York, Asher's trueborn son.
This is Tyrion 11. Uh, any Tyrion chapter, especially in the earlier books, is a great chapter. Um, as always, if you've seen any of these, and our few friends that watch have seen quite a few of them, so we appreciate it. We start with the brains of the operation, which is Richard. He will say what he saw in the chapter, and hey, Pod, and then I will jump in with my stupid stuff. So take it away. What was the one before that?
Oh, sorry, I missed Lizzie's. You're right. Here, staying
Yeah.
alive, sort of. Can't keep count today, and Chris will be stepping in as tribute. And then Pod said Shyamalan Ding Dong. All right.
uh,
So in this sure counts as one, Chris. Gross. All
you beat
right.
Lindsay on
So this is Clash 49, Tyrion 11. Tyrion prepares. So if you die stupidly, I'm going. Well, there's also a lot of foreshadowing of Tyrion marrying to inherit Winterfell, essentially. So we'll talk about that when we get there, and some other interesting foreshadowing, which we'll also discuss.
it.
If you die stupidly, I'm going to feed your body to the goats, Tyrion threatened as the first load of stone crows pushed off from the quay. Shagga laughed. The half-man has no goats. I'll get some just for you. Dawn was breaking, and pale ripples of light shivered on the surface of the river, shattering under the poles and reforming when the ferry had passed. The last hero had a broken sword, and Dawn was breaking and shattering, actually.
There you go.
Timmett had taken his burn men into the Kingswood 2 days before. Yesterday, the Black Ears and Moon Brothers followed. Today, the Stone Crows. Whatever you do, don't try and fight a battle, Tyrion said. Strike at their camps and baggage train, ambush their scouts, and hang the bodies from trees ahead of their line of march. Loop around and cut down the stragglers. I want night attacks, so many and so sudden that they'll be afraid to sleep. Shagga laid a hand atop Tyrion's head. All this I learned from Dolph, son of Holger, before my beard had grown. This is the way of war in the Mountains of the Moon. The Kingswood is not the Mountains of the Moon, and you won't be fighting milk snakes and painted dogs. And listen to the guides I'm sending. They know this wood as well as you know your mountains. Heed their counsel, and they'll serve you well. Shagga will listen to the half-man's pets, the clansman promised solemnly. And then it was time for him to lead his Garron onto the ferry. Tyrion watched them push off and pull out toward the center of the Blackwater. He felt a queer twinge in the pit of his stomach as Shagga faded in the morning mist. He was going to feel naked without his clansmen. Ooh, these others are fading into the morning mist. Anyway, he still had.
I'm surprised Tyrion did not keep some of his clansmen.
Yeah.
Uh,
Well, he's right that this is what they're good for, and they're probably better for that than anybody else is. So
yeah.
he's using his resources the way he should, I think. He still had bronze hirelings, near 800 of them now, but sellswords were notoriously fickle. Tyrion had done what he could to buy their continued loyalty, promising Bronn and a dozen of his best men lands and knighthoods when the battle was won. They drank his wine, laughed at his jests, and called each other sir until they were all staggering, all but Bronn himself, who'd only smiled that insolent dark smile of his and afterwards said, "They'll kill for that knighthood. Don't ever think they'll die for it." Tyrion had no such delusion. The gold cloaks were almost as uncertain a weapon. Oops. Accidentally messed up there. Pressed a key and it jumped to where my cursor was. Sorry about that.
Right.
The gold cloaks were almost as uncertain a weapon. 6,000 men in the city watch, thanks to Cersei, but only a quarter of them could be relied upon. There's few out-and-out traitors, though there's some. Even your spider hasn't found them all, Bywater had warned him. But there's hundreds greener than spring grass, men who join for bread and ale and safety. No man likes to look craven in the sight of his fellows, So they'll fight brave enough at the start, when it's all war horns and blowing banners. But if the battle looks to be going sour, they'll break, and they'll break bad. The first man to throw down his spear and run will have 1,000 more trotting on his heels. They'll break bad? Someone should take that phrase and run with it. To be sure.
Well, I mean, Tyrion's also still showing how smart he is when it comes to battles, even though he's only been in one. He knows people. So, I mean, he has no illusions about what's going to happen.
To be sure, there were seasoned men in the City Watch. The core of 2,000 had gotten their gold cloaks from Robert, not Cersei. Yet even those, a watchman was not truly a soldier, Lord Tywin Lannister had been fond of saying. Of knights and squires and men-at-arms, Tyrion had no more than 300. Soon enough, he must test the truth of another of his father's sayings. One man on a wall was worth 10 beneath it. Bronn and the escort were waiting at the foot of the quay, amidst swarming beggars, strolling whores, and fishwives crying the catch. The fishwives did more business than all the rest combined. Buyers flocked around the barrels and stalls to haggle over winkles, clams, and river pike. With no other food coming into the city, the price of fish was 10 times what it had been before the war, and still rising. Those who had coin came to the riverfront each morning and each evening, in hopes of bringing home an eel or a pot of red crabs. Those who did not slipped between the stalls, hoping to steal, or stood gaunt and forlorn beneath the walls. The gold cloaks cleared a path through the press, shoving people aside with the shafts of their spears. Tyrion ignored the muttered curses as best he could. Ignoring muttered curses and failing to appreciate how terrible his PR is kind of Tyrion's thing. A fish came sailing out of the crowd, slimy and rotten, and landed at his feet and flew to pieces. He stepped over it gingerly and climbed into his saddle. Children with swollen bellies were already fighting over pieces of the stinking fish. See LML and pretty much all of his stuff. Anyway, I mean, anytime there's a flying object and it's like, splattering like that. Mounted, he gazed along the riverfront. Hammers rang in the morning air as carpenters swarmed over the mudgate, extending wooden hoardings from the battlements. Those were coming well. He was a deal less pleased by the clutter of ramshackle structures that had been allowed to grow up behind the quays, attaching themselves to the city walls like barnacles on the hull of a ship. Bait shacks and pot shops, warehouses, merchant stalls, alehouses, the cribs where the cheaper sort of horse spread their legs. It has to go, every bit of it. As it was, Stannis would hardly need scaling ladders to storm the walls. He called Bronn to his side. Assemble 100 men and burn everything you see here between the water's edge and the city walls. He waved his stubby fingers, taking in all the waterfront squalor. I want nothing left standing, do you understand? The black-haired sellsword turned his head, considering the task. Them as own all this won't like that much. I never imagined they would. So be it. We'll have something else to curse the evil monkey demon for. Again, bad PR is Tyrion's thing. Some may fight. See that they lose. What do we do with those that live here? Let them have a reasonable time to remove their property and then move them out. Try not to kill any of them. They're not the enemy. And no more rapes. Keep your men in line, damn it. They're sellswords, not septons, said Bronn. Next, you'll be telling me you want them sober. Couldn't hurt. Tyrion only wished he could as easily make city walls twice as tall and 3 times as thick. But perhaps it did not matter. Massive walls and tall towers had not saved Storm's End, nor Harrenhal, nor even Winterfell. He remembered Winterfell as he had last seen it, not as grotesquely huge as Harrenhal, nor as solid and impregnable to look at as Storm's End. Yet there had been a great strength in those stones, a sense that within those walls a man might feel safe. That almost sounds like Tyrion would be home at Winterfell, foreshadowing his future marriage. The news of the and of course Tyrion is meant to be an echo of Ned in this book, and Ned marries Catelyn, and that is in fact bigamy. See Triple Targaryens episodes 1 and 2. Anyway,
if you say 2 episodes, does that count as 2 references?
I don't think so.
Okay.
But we'll leave that to Chris
Lizzie will be
to
the
figure
judge
out.
of that. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll leave that to Chris and Lizzie to figure out.
Yeah.
The news of the castle's fall had come as a wrenching shock. The gods give with one hand and take with the other, he muttered under his breath when Varys told him. They had given the Starks Harrenhal and taken Winterfell, a dismal exchange. Sure counts as 1. 2. Now, whether that means that he's answering your question or that just means that this is reference number 2, I don't know.
Yep.
Tyrion had only the vaguest memory of Theon Greyjoy from his time with the Starks. A callow youth, always smiling, skilled with a bow, it was hard to imagine him as Lord of Winterfell. The Lord of Winterfell would always be a Stark. That sounds like ironic foreshadowing of Tyrion's bigamy. He remembered their godswood, the tall sentinels armored in their gray-green needles, the great oaks, the hawthorn and ash and soldier pines, and at the center, the heart tree standing like some pale giant frozen in time. He could almost smell. I say it counts as two because I'm sick and feeling opposite. He could almost smell the place, earthy and brooding, the smell of centuries, and he remembered how dark the wood had been even by day. That wood was Winterfell. It was the North. I never felt so out of place as I did when I walked there, so much an unwelcome intruder. He wondered if the Greyjoys would feel it too. The castle might well be theirs, but never that Godswood, not in a year or 10 or 50. Sounds like Tyrion is the next Catelyn. Have we mentioned foreshadowing of Tyrion's future marriage?
Yeah, that was exactly what I was thinking as you were reading that.
Yeah, it sounds just like Catelyn. Tyrion Lannister walked his horse slowly toward the Mudgate. Winterfell is nothing to you, he reminded himself. Again, ironic foreshadowing. Be glad the place has fallen and look to your own walls. The gate was open. Inside, 3 great trebuchets stood side by side in the market square, peering over the battlements like 3 huge birds. Their throwing arms were made from the trunks of old oaks and banded with iron to keep them from splitting. The gold cloaks had named them the 3 Whores because they'd be giving Lord Stannis such a lusty welcome, or so we hope. And of course, this is going to be paralleled in Marine, right?
Yeah.
Tyrion put his heels into his horse and trotted through the Mudgate, breasting the human tide. Once beyond the horse, the press grew thinner and the street opened up around him. Again, Tyrion loves to push his way through all these people.
Yeah.
The ride back to the Red Keep was uneventful, but at the Tower of the Hand, he found a dozen angry trader captains waiting in his audience chamber to protest the seizure of their ships. He gave them a sincere apology and promised compensation once the war was done. That did little to appease them. What if you should lose, my lord? One Braavosi asked. Then apply to King Stannis for your compensation. Again, not good at this whole PR thing.
Yeah. There are times he starts to sound like his father.
Yep.
Or,
By the time he... Yes. Oh, well, I personally believe Tywin is at least one of his fathers if he's a Chimera, or Chimera. By the time he rid himself of them, bells were ringing and Tyrion knew he would be late for the installation. He waddled across the yard almost at a run and crowded into the back of the castle sept as Joffrey fastened white silk cloaks about the shoulders of the 2 newest members of his Kingsguard. The rite seemed to require that everyone stand, so Tyrion saw nothing but a wall of courtly arses. It's debatable whether all of them are arses in the first place, but anyway. Yeah. On the other hand, once the new High Septon was finished leading the 2 knights through their solemn vows and anointing them in the names of the 7, he would be well positioned to be the first out the doors. He approved of his sister's choice of Sir Balon Swan to take the place of the slain Preston Greenfield. The Swans were marcher lords, proud, powerful, and cautious. Pleading illness, Lord Julian, I don't know. What do you think? I'll say Julian, I guess.
Yeah.
Lord Julian Swan had remained in his castle, taking no part in the war, but his eldest son had ridden with Renly and now Stannis, while Balon, the younger, served at King's Landing. If he'd had a 3rd son, Tyrion suspected he'd be off with Robb Stark. It was not perhaps the most honorable course, but showed good sense. Whoever won the Iron Throne, the Swans intended to survive. In addition to being well-born, young Sir Balon was valiant, courtly, and skilled at arms. Good with a lance, better with a morning star, superb with the bow. He would serve with honor and courage. Alas, Tyrion could not say the same for Cersei's second choice. Sir Osmond Kettleblack looked formidable enough. He stood 6 feet and 6 inches, most of it sinew and muscle, and his hooked nose, bushy eyebrows, and spade-shaped brown beard gave his face a fierce aspect, as long as he did not smile. Lowborn, no more than a hedge knight, Kettleblack was utterly dependent on Cersei for his advancement, which was doubtless why she picked him. Sir Osmond is as loyal as he is brave, she told Joffrey when she put forward his name. It was true, unfortunately. The good Sir Osmond had been selling her secrets to Bronn since the day she'd hired him, but Tyrion could scarcely tell her that. He supposed he ought not complain. The appointment gave him another ear close to the king, unbeknownst to his sister. And even if Sir Osmond proved an utter craven, he could be no worse than Sir Boros Blunt, currently residing in a dungeon at Rosby. Sir Boros had been escorting Tommen and Lord Giles when Sir Jocelyn Bywater and his gold cloaks had surprised them, and had yielded up his charge with an alacrity that would have enraged old Sir Barristan Selmy as much as it did Cersei. A knight of the Kingsguard is supposed to die in defense of the king and royal family. His sister had insisted that Joffrey strip Blunt of his white cloak on the grounds of treason and cowardice. Now she replaces him with another man just as hollow. So one of the things that's kind of funny about that is he says he's lowborn, and there's multiple people have pointed out the symbolism um, seems to point at um, which one is it Oswell? Which one's the father?
I
Anyway.
can't remember. There's too many O names.
Anyway, his name matches Went of the Kingsguard, right?
Right.
From the Tower of Joy, and so some people think that basically what happened was Dantos was recognizing the Kingsguard was still alive and was like, what? And he's like, no names, right? And so because the symbolism points at him as Went. And so there's a certain irony in him saying that he's lowborn if he might in fact be a Went.
Okay. You're saying that Oswell Went of the
Yeah.
Kingsguard that was at the Tower of Joy, is
Yep.
the three Kettle Blacks' father.
Yeah.
Okay.
You haven't heard that? I've heard
Yeah,
that from
I've heard it,
LML.
but
I've heard that from
I'm trying to make sure we get it. We get it
I've heard that from Girls
all
Gone
laid out.
Canon. I've heard that from LML. I've heard that from Toodles. Like they all think that. Well, they all think that the symbolism points at that.
Okay. Well, my question is if it is Oswell Went that is the father of the three Kettle Blacks, they would have been born before Robert's Rebellion. Because they're not all 15, 16
so he was
years
actually
old.
having kids while at Kingsguard.
Right. That's
because
what
they're
I'm
not
trying
young
to
enough.
point
Yeah,
out.
you're right. That is interesting. Interesting.
I don't knock the theory.
He wouldn't be the first. He wouldn't be the first.
Yeah, so I mean,
they're bastards. Your point. So they're not highborn. They're baseborn, but they're not lowborn.
Right.
Okay.
But I mean, we've had plenty of Kingsguard through this universe.
They're bastards who've taken another name, and that actually does. And Kettle Black, perhaps being somewhat of an echo of Blackfire. Then, okay.
Well, I mean, the at Tower of Joy, we're told that Oswald Kettle Black is there sharpening his sword. He's got the black bat of House Went on his helm. So having black in the name might be a slight reference to the black bat of House Went. I mean, I can't knock it. I got nothing against it, but I mean, I don't got a whole lot for it either. So, I mean, I'm good with it.
Basically, it's, Toodle's argument would be that it's we're actually seeing Dantos recognize him, right? And Dantos has been at court, and presumably the Kettle Blacks have not been at court because nobody at court's ever heard of them or seen them, right? And Dantos has been at court the whole time. Dantos immediately recognizes this guy as Oswell.
Okay.
And he's shocked. Right, he's like Oswell, right, and so that's part of the idea, right? Is how does Dantos recognize this guy that nobody at court's ever met or seen or right, and he knows his name and right, and so anyway, and combine that with all the symbolism that LML and Girls Gone Canon say is pointing at him as a Went,
right?
And
when did the Dantos recognizing Oswald occur? Is it before
when they're fleeing with Sansa? Later, when they're fleeing with Sansa.
Okay. All right, no problem.
But he came with such stellar references, you guys.
Hey,
Sir Robert Stone. Busy day, just checking in. Love you all. Thank you, Sanji. Anyway, yeah, Lizzie's right. It's like stellar references, sure. The praying, bowing, and anointing seemed to take most of the morning. Tyrion's legs soon began to ache. He shifted his weight from one foot to the other, restless. Lady Tanda stood several rows up, he saw, but her daughter was not with her. He'd been half hoping to catch a glimpse of Shay. Varys said she was doing well, but he would prefer to see for himself. Better a lady's maid than a pot girl, Shay had said when Tyrion told her the eunuch's scheme. Can I take my belt of silver flowers and my gold collar with the black diamonds you said look like my eyes? I won't wear them if you say I shouldn't. Loath as he was to disappoint her, Tyrion had to point out that while Lady Tanda was by no means a clever woman, even she might wonder if her daughter's bedmaid seemed to own more jewelry than her daughter. Choose 2 or 3 dresses, no more, he commanded her. Good wool, no silk, no samite, and no fur. The rest I'll keep in my own chambers for when you visit me. It was not the answer Shay had wanted, but at least she was safe. When the investiture was finally done, Joffrey marched out between Sir Balin and Sir Osmond, their new white cloaks, while Tyrion lingered for a word with the new High Septon, who was his choice and wise enough to know who put the honey on his bread. I want the gods on our side, Tyrion told him bluntly. Tell them that Stannis has vowed to burn the great sept of Baelor. Is it true, my lord? Asked the High Septon, a small, shrewd man with a wispy white beard and wizened face. Tyrion shrugged. It may be. Stannis burned the godswood at Storm's End as an offering to the Lord of Light. If he'd offend the old gods, why should he spare the new? Tell them that. Tell them that any man who thinks to give aid to the usurper betrays the gods as well as his rightful king. Now, we knew him as having burned the seven.
Right.
So it's kind of interesting that Tyrion is only aware that he's also burned the godswood.
Right. That is odd.
Yeah. I shall, my lord, and I shall command them to pray for the health of the king and his hand as well. Helene the pyromancer was waiting on him when Tyrion returned to his solar, and Maester Franken had brought messages. He let the alchemist wait a little longer while he read what the ravens had brought him. There was an old letter from Doran Martell warning him that Storm's End had fallen, and a much more intriguing one from Balon Greyjoy on Pike, who styled himself King of the Isles in the North. He invited King Joffrey to send an envoy to the Iron Islands to fix the borders between their realms and discuss a possible alliance. Tyrion read the letter 3 times and set it aside. Lord Balon's longships would have been a great help against the fleet sailing up from Storm's End, but they were thousands of leagues away on the wrong side of Westeros. Tyrion was far from certain that he wanted to give away half the realm. Perhaps I should spill this one in Cersei's lap, or take it to the council. Only then did he admit Helene with the latest tallies from the alchemists. This cannot be true, said Tyrion as he pored over the ledgers. Almost 13,000 jars? Do you take me for a fool? I'm not about to pay the king's gold for empty jars and pots of sewage sealed with wax, I warn you. No, no, Helene squeaked. The sums are accurate, I swear. We've been most fortunate, my lord Hand. Another cache of Lord Rossert's was found. More than 300 jars. Under the dragon pit. Some whores have been using the ruins to entertain their patrons. One of them fell through a patch of rotted floor into a cellar. When he felt the jars, he mistook them for wine. He was so drunk he broke the seal and drank some. There was a prince who tried that once, said Tyrion dryly. I haven't seen any dragons rising over the city, so it would seem it didn't work this time either. The dragon pit atop the Hill of Rainies had been abandoned for a century and a half. He supposed it was as good a place as any to store wildfire, and better than most, but it would have been nice if the late Lord Rossart had told someone. 300 jars, you say? That still does not account for these totals. You are several thousand jars ahead of the best estimate you gave me when last we met. Yes, that's so. Helene mopped at his pale brow with the sleeve of his black and scarlet robe. We've been working very hard, my lord Hand. So, does that say anything about who their informers are? What were we saying when she said that? Who their informers are. Yeah. Oh, that they're aware of the godswood and not the seven implies that their informers had eyes on the godswood and not on the seven. That's an interesting idea, Lizzie. Sorry, Lady Thistle. I think I said Lizzie. I meant Lady Thistle. That's an interesting idea, Lady Thistle.
He's saying that whoever saw the burning of the godswood was looking through the heart tree.
Oh, okay. Oh,
yeah, that's the way I'm taking it.
So Dorcas can use the trees but not see everywhere?
Well, it didn't say Dorcas gave him the information.
Well, I mean, it's just my assumption, but okay.
Right. But I mean,
he has access to somebody who can anyway.
Yeah, I mean, that one's kind of difficult.
It's an interesting idea. It's an interesting idea, though.
If he is a skin changer, I could see
our first potential evidence that we've uncovered that he knows all the conjurer's tricks. Well, wouldn't one of the conjurer's tricks be tapping into the weirwood?
Yeah, I can see that.
Anyway,
that Lady Thistle is.
That's
every
really
time
interesting.
She speaks, it's a drop of the mic moment. It's
absolutely that's awesome. Really interesting, and I don't know.
I told her several times that, I mean, not knocking anybody else. I mean, but her brain is, as far as it comes to A Song of Ice and Fire, is just outstanding. So I love that. I love that.
Love having her contribute. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Hmm. Anyway,
Does
do you
Haon
think
serve the
Helene
Targaryen?
serves the Targaryens? Like he certainly, or it's just maybe it's just tradition because they were serving the Targaryens for close to 3 centuries.
I would
Anyway,
think that there are still that
we should start a podcast.
yeah, she should. I would still think there are
She should
lingering
start a podcast.
the lingering loyalty to the Targaryens, especially how much they loved what the pyromancers were doing after the dragons were gone. So I want to think that they would be supportive of Targaryens coming back because of the Targaryens' desire to have as much that of anything
Well,
that the pyromancers could perform. So I
well, I
mean,
mean, their fire magic is clearly associated with the Targaryens and working with the Targaryens, right? So
right,
so
right,
it kind
right.
of makes sense.
Yeah,
Symbolically, they're tied to the Targaryens.
yeah, I think that giving the first opportunity that they would definitely jump ship to be with the Targaryens.
Yeah, they want to be on the side of anybody who controls dragons.
Yeah. What
That would
now? Would that put them jumping to Fagon or jumping to Danny?
depends on whether or not Aegon actually gets a dragon.
Yeah. Okay.
No, I'm not a big fan of calling him Fagon, even though I mean acknowledge that he's fake Aegon the Sixth and actual Aegon the Seventh. So he is fake no matter what. But
Yeah.
yeah. Anyway,
Well, I mean, it's the most used term for him. So I mean, it's just habit to call him that.
sure, and it's technically true. He's technically fake. He's not actually Elliot's kid. So
Right.
that would doubtless explain why you're making so much more of the substance than before. Smiling, Tyrion fixed the pyromancer with his mismatched stare. Though it does raise the question of why you did not begin working hard until now. Helene had the complexion of a mushroom, so it was hard to see how he could turn any paler, yet somehow he managed. We were, my lord Hand. My brothers and I have been laboring day and night from the first, I assure you. It's only, we have made so much of the substance that we have become, more practiced, as it were. And also, Agnes shifted uncomfortably. Certain spells, ancient secrets of our order, very delicate, very troublesome, but necessary for the substances to be, all it should be. Tyrion was growing impatient. Sir Jocelyn Bywater was likely here by now, and Iron Hand misliked waiting. Yes, you have secret spells. How splendid. What of them?
A
They.
quick question.
Yeah, go ahead.
It says we were my Lord Hand. My brothers and I have been laboring day and night from the first. So I'm
Yeah.
assuming that's from when they first met with Tyrion.
Or even before that, because I think hadn't Cersei already started?
Yeah. Okay, Cersei. I mean that still works into the time frame that I'm talking about.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
all right. Before Danny goes to the House of the Undying, they were having a hard time
Yeah, it does make it sound
working
like he
through
only
the
recently
process.
started to speed up,
Right.
and so your point is the birth of dragons seems to be before this. So
Yeah.
so the magic becoming more and more awakened seems to continue beyond just that one event. It's not
Right.
it's not a
Right.
binary thing. It's not a
Yeah.
binary thing where suddenly magic's on full blast and off, on low until the dragons are born and then on full blast. It seems to be more of something that's continued to build.
Right. Well, the only thing involving Danny that has been a big deal from the time the dragons were born to this chapter is the House of the Undying.
So if there is
Everything else,
another binary step, then that would potentially be a triggering event, is your point. So
right.
your question so there's two possibilities. One is that the magic is continuing to build, right?
Right.
And the other is that there was literally something that has triggered a further increase. And your point is that could be Danny taking the shade of the evening, or burning down the House of the Undying, sacrificing the Undying, basically,
Right.
life for
The
life and so forth.
the Drogon burning the heart, and I think replenishing
Okay.
Danny's life fire is probably the most important part of that chapter.
All right. We got lots of things here. Okay, so first off, we talked about Aegon being, I didn't like him being considered a fake Targaryen, but he is technically fake Aegon the Sixth and real Aegon the Seventh, right? And Sea Trip to Third episode 3, right? As Lizzie said, that was already a reference. Chris counted it. And then Pod says, it feels like Jerem also used this as a plot device to remind us this is a fantasy series. And Sir Dave stopped in and said, how goes it, lords and ladies? Hopefully life has been kinder to y'all lately. Kicking my ass lately. Well, Sir Dave, we maybe didn't have the best weekends for old new dude and me, but we're happy to be here and having fun.
Yes. Sorry, life's kicking you in the ass there, Sir Dave.
Yeah. Unfortunately, we can
relate.
Kind of relate. Yeah. Anyway, good to be here. Pod's idea here is that as part of this is to remind us it's a fantasy series and Magic's reawakening and so forth, right?
Right. Well, I mean,
definitely fair.
All right. I can understand what you're saying, that Magic is slowly building from the time that dragons were born.
There's, as usual, it's ambiguous, so there's multiple correct interpretations.
Right. And if it is what I'm saying, that the something happening to Danny and the Dragons is another kickstart or boost to the magic that's being put out in the world, then that's something that we could actually physically look forward to the next time we see something that invokes the increasing of magic, and then look behind that and see if something happened to Danny. What does that say?
In my opinion, it's not the House of the Undying. It's her Dragon Zoo. More people see dragons equals more people believe in magic. Oh, I like that. Equals magic gains more power. Oh, I like that, Lady Thistle.
Mic drop.
Nice interpretation. Nice interpretation. Yes. It's certainly that's a common fantasy trope that it's belief in magic that continues to feed the magic. So I certainly like that idea.
That's an awesome idea.
It's a great interpretation.
We love you, Lady Thistle.
Absolutely. And she sort of I think was letting us know as well. All right. Your secret spells, House Splendor, what of them? They seem to be working better than they were. Helene smiled weakly. You don't suppose there are any dragons about, do you? I thought we discussed this. No, not unless you found one under the dragon pit. Why? Oh, pardon. I was just remembering something old Wisdom Politer told me once when I was an acolyte. I'd asked him why so many of our spells seemed, well, not as effectual as the scrolls would have us believe. He said it was because magic had begun to go out of the world the day the last dragon died. Sorry to disappoint you, but I've seen no dragons. I have noticed the king's justice lurking about, however. Should any of these fruits you're selling me turn out to be filled with anything but wildfire, you'll be seeing him as well. Helene fled so quickly that he almost bowled over Sir Jocelyn. No, Lord Jocelyn. He must remember that. Iron Hand was mercifully direct as ever. He'd returned from Rosby to deliver a fresh levy of spearmen recruited from Lord Giles's estates and resume his command of the City Watch. How does my nephew fare? Tyrion asked when they were done discussing the city's defenses. Prince Tommen is hale and happy, my lord. He has adopted a fawn some of my men brought home from a hunt. He had one once before, he says, but Joffrey skinned her for a jerkin. He asks about his mother sometimes, and often begins letters to the Princess Marcella, though he never seems to finish any. His brother, however, he does not seem to miss at all. Notice that Tommen would not hurt the White Stag. You have made suitable arrangements for him. Should the battle be lost? My men have their instructions, which are, you commanded me to tell no one, my lord. That made him smile. I'm pleased you remember. Should King's Landing fall, he might well be taken alive. Better if he did not know where Joffrey's heir might be found. Varys appeared not long after Lord Jocelyn had left. Men are such faithless creatures, he said by way of greeting. Tyrion sighed. Who's the traitor today? The eunuch handed him a scroll. So much villainy. It sings a sad song for our age. Did honor die with our fathers? My father is not dead yet. Now there's some ironic foreshadowing. Of course, some people think that it's ironic and that perhaps his father is dead, but we don't fully buy that. We think that it's certainly possible that he's a chimera.
Chimera.
Yeah. Anyway,
one way or the other, one of his dads are dead.
Yep. Tyrion scanned the list. I know some of these names. These are rich men, traders, merchants, craftsmen. Why should they conspire against us? It seems they believe that Lord Stannis must win and wish to share his victory. They call themselves the Antlermen after the crowned stag. I cannot remember if it's
A quick thing
Preston.
though. Uh,
Yeah, I'm going to comment on this, so go ahead.
uh, could Varys be putting down names that he
I'm sorry, I don't know. I don't recognize that name.
could Dorcas be putting down names that or put names in
Oh,
with the
sure. That's a good
Antlermen
point.
to try to get rid of them?
Yeah, you can certainly see them. That's an interesting idea. I don't know. We have much evidence of that, but
No, I mean
certainly an
it's a
interesting idea.
possibility.
Yeah, it's an interesting concept. So I can't remember if it's Preston or LML, but one of them has been talking about how a song for Leah implies attaching your hive mind gods to your head, um, and that the antler men then foreshadows the green men on the Isle of Faces are actually wearing weirwood crowns that make them look like stagmen.
Okay.
So anyway, it's an interesting thought because these guys are going to get antlers stapled to their heads and then they're going to be thrown through the air.
So I mean, we have the legends of the Antlermen having real antlers, and what's being said is it's not real antlers. It's just been misinterpreted over the years, and it's actually a weirwood crown that looks like antlers.
Right. You got the whole concept of the driftwood crown and the idea that the driftwood could potentially be weirwood, and so you got all these ideas that the real old gods of the story are in fact potentially people are wearing them attached to their head and so forth.
Well,
right?
I mean, if we'd have got blood moon or whatever it was going to be called,
Yeah.
we maybe would know the answer to that
Yeah, they
question.
may have shown us that. Yeah, or
Yeah.
we may still learn it because we could at some point see somebody go to the Isle of Faces. So
Yeah.
anyway, someone should tell them that Stannis changed his sigil. Then they can be the Hot Hearts. It was no matter for jests, though. It appeared that these antler men had armed several hundred followers to seize the old gate once battle was joined and admit the enemy to the city. That sounds kind of like Tywin convincing them to open the gates, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Among the names on the list was I should say Pycelle convincing them to open the gates.
Yeah.
Among the names on the list was the Master Armorer Solorian. Anyway, I suppose this means I won't be getting that terrifying helm with the demon horns, Tyrion complained as he scrawled the order for the man's arrest. Again, the antler men are associated with wearing horns on your head, and he's therefore associating this with people who produce horns to put on your head.
Right. Well, I mean, George does this throughout the books.
Oh, yeah.
Like the references to the Kingsguard mirroring or producing images of the White Walkers. I mean, I can see it. I mean, I didn't know anything about that before, but here, I love anything new to me is awesome.
Sure.
Which that makes total sense. I mean,
oh yeah.
That's why when we're reading the world of the Song of Ice and Fire, and we're hearing legends of like Garth Greenhand, stuff like that, anything that happened in the past, you have to take it with a grain of salt and just kind of weed through what's there.
Right. What's that symbolize for where the stories might be going and so forth, right?
Yeah, or look at it and see how it could be slightly twisted over the years, maybe guess at the original intention of what they're saying. So, I mean, like with the Azor Ahai, the last hero, all that, the 13th Lord Commander, I mean, everything that's written down about that is from so far away or so far ago that you can't take it word for word. You got to kind of pick through it and then look at it and see, well, how could this be something else but similar?
It's also the case that you can take all those legends and like, I mean, LML is certainly known for doing this, but it's something that I was already kind of eyeing as I was reading it before even, but anyway, you can take all these legends and you can kind of say, well, there's probably a seed of truth, and say probably overlap, and how could they overlap, and how could there be a seed of truth to the overlap of the legends and all that, right? And so absolutely.
Well, I mean, it's like we were talking. Is either the last live stream or the one before that? I can't quite remember. We were talking about there's legends all over the map, and everybody thinks that all those different legends uh, is the Azor High, just
Right.
one
But you
person.
think, but you think
I,
that we see that the stories are echoes of each other within the story, and we see these same patterns repeating. We see this whole right. We see this sworn sword betrayal. We see this guy coming back from the dead to lead returning from who was believed to be essentially dead to the people, coming back and leading an
right.
army to right and questionable loyalty and which side are they on, and all this stuff, right? And you see that over and over again.
Yeah, well, I mean, what we were saying was basically that the prophecy of Azor High is one person. When they talk about the last hero, that's a different person. We were saying Azor High, Danny, last hero,
Right.
John,
I
and
mean,
then
the
we're
whole
talking about
concept
the
of
house. We're talking about the faceless men. Could they possibly have uh, a prophecy of their Messiah, for lack of a better word? And we're saying it could possibly be uh, Arya. So I mean, I think
right,
that
right,
all the legends throughout the entire map that are describing similar people, we don't know exactly who the
right.
13th Lord
Just
Commander,
just as in
his
the
12
story, it's a
right.
pattern. It's a
Well, I mean,
pattern of behavior.
he has 12 companions, and we're not told anything about the companions other than I think we're told they die. Uh,
Right.
but we don't know who the 12 companions are. We don't know where they're from. I mean, it could be a culmination of all these mighty warriors that were prophesized or whatever coming together to form the Justice League, for lack of a better word.
Well,
Maybe,
basically,
maybe
if this story is about patterns repeating, then why couldn't the first story be about patterns repeating with different people in the same role over and over again, right?
right.
And therefore, the end would be different people fulfilling that role in the pattern, and it's continuing to see these patterns over and over again, right?
Right. I
There's
mean, we see people in the story that they were like, oh yeah, they have to have something to do with the fight for Dawn. I mean, we got John, we got Stannis, we got Jamie, we got Brienne, we got Danny. I mean, there's so many people that they contribute something, or they have to be in the story for a reason. And you could see Stannis being the general that is in charge of the armies that are fighting the undead. And you see John as the last hero. You see Danny with her dragons as
Yeah,
Azor
yeah, okay.
High.
Just let's talk about some of these patterns that we see. Like specifically, the
Okay.
main pattern is that you see is which you see, like, for example, Arya and Tyrion are about to be killed, and and the Vale Knights arrive and save them, and they're not certain who they are until they see their banners, and then they realize that they're on their side and so forth, right? And
Okay.
you've got Winterfell, you've got Ramsay and so forth. So one of the patterns you tend to see is people believing all is lost, people believing that they're dead. Often the person who shows up at the end is somebody who was believed dead. John arrives at the wall to save them from the attack from Egret, right?
Right.
Um, Arguably sacrifices his wife as part of that, right?
Mhm.
Um, um, you've got he's kind of viewed as a betrayer, right? Um, you've got so one of the patterns you often see is a king's guard or somebody who's one of the first to swear their loyalty to someone, betraying them. You see that quite often.
Right.
You see a person believed dead coming back and leading a force that saved somebody who was completely encircled and under attack and about to die. That's one of the
Which is a
patterns that we
hint
see.
that everybody's like, what's the point of Rickon? That's a hint that a person that was believed dead is
Believed
going to come
dead,
back
come
leading an
back.
army.
Yep, yep,
Scargotti riding unicorns,
yep.
and Rickon's going to be
Absolutely.
on Shaggy Dog's back. It's going to be badass.
Absolutely, absolutely. We've got Renly's ghost. You've got Ramsay's believed dead and leaving an army, and he's also one of the first to swear a sword to Theon, and then he betrays him. You've got
Right.
right. I mean, so you see the same pattern happen over and over again, right?
Mhm.
Um, Tywin shows back up and seems like he's going to save King's Landing, but in fact it's the other way around, right? There's often this questionable loyalty. Didn't know what was going on until I saw the banners, and somebody betray somebody and so forth, right? There sure seems like that's a pattern that you see over and over again, right?
Right.
And so that's sort of what we should expect to be sort of the main pattern, and it may happen multiple times, and we'll see lots of these different people in those different roles, I think.
Yeah. When he repeats, it's at least 3 times. It could be more. It could be more, but it's at least 3 times.
Yep.
I mean, just talking about the tower associated with a Chardane. You have the wife or the mother of the Lord of Winterfell that killed his father and brung his head back on a pike or a spear or whatever. When she saw that, she threw herself from a tower. And then there's the tower associated with Lyanna. I mean, that's 3 stories involving a woman and a tower, and the person is believed to die around that tower.
And, and of course, we think the best clue that Ashara is alive, other than George strongly implying that she's alive in interviews, but the best clue in canon implying that she's alive is Ned believing that his wife, that he needs forgiveness from his wife, right? And that implying that she's alive, right?
Yeah, I agree.
Yep. Anyway,
I get sad when I talk about Ned.
Yeah, fair enough.
All right. You got anything else?
No, let's wrap it up, and maybe I'll tweet something about my unfortunate events. So anyway.
Oh, for people, I have been. I mean, Friday night I went to bed at 8:00. Laid around most of the weekend. I haven't been on social media. I haven't answered anything. So what's she?
Pod says a woman throwing herself from a tower on news of death is actually Dracula's origin story.
Oh, I did not know that.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Pod comes in with knowledge. I mean, as far as a wide range of knowledge, Pod is. I mean, there's not a subject you can talk to Pod about that he does not know. Conversational knowledge, at least, about that subject. So, nice point there, Pod. We appreciate it. Okay, Thursday, or Theon.
Wednesday. Wednesday. Do we need to move to Thursday for some reason?
No, Wednesday.
Lady Thistle said that's wild because she just learned that yesterday.
Oh, that's awesome.
Doesn't encourage Pod. It makes his head big.
Well, I mean, talking about it like you just learned it yesterday, there's like, I had, for some reason, was thinking of Arnold Schwarzenegger's movie Commando, and boom, it's on Netflix. And it happens all the time. I'll be thinking of a movie that I saw a long time ago. I didn't see it on Netflix. And then a week later, I go on Netflix or HBO Max, and boom, it's right there. So,
you know what? One thing we forgot to mention, I don't think we mentioned it. Up next is Clash 50 Theon 4. Queen Osha escapes with King Bran the Bastard.
That's Wednesday. So I know I'm a little low energy today. You kind of tell it in my face when I'm not feeling good. It tends to mess up even more on the side that doesn't work. But I hopefully will be back to full strength on Wednesday. We're signing tomorrow on our trailer and land. So that's a really, really big deal. But appreciate everybody stopping by today. I mean, some really awesome comments. Lady Thistle, mic drop. A couple of times in this live stream, she had a mic drop moment. So we appreciate it. We will see everybody on
this last comment here. Divine intuition.
There you go. We'll see everybody Wednesday. I'm gonna get a shirt that says that, Lizzie. But we'll see everybody Wednesday. Hopefully you have the good rest of your week till Hump Day, and we appreciate y'all stopping by. I have been Old New Dude, and he has been
Richard York, Asher's 2-1 son.
Y'all take care. We'll see you Wednesday. Bye.
Have a good one. Bye.